Something about these 2026 COLA changes and the SSI and SSDI payment calendar is leaving a lot of people unnecessarily worried, and the confusion usually starts the moment the schedule looks slightly different from what they expected. Here's the twist. In many cases, nothing is actually wrong at all, but the way dates land on a calendar can make a completely normal payment look unusual, delayed, doubled, or changed when it really is not. If you depend on SSI, SSDI, or Social Security retirement benefits to pay for groceries, rent, prescriptions, utilities, and the basic needs that cannot wait, then this information matters in a very real way, because even a small delay or a deposit that appears at an unfamiliar time can create instant stress. What most people miss is that this is not just about numbers on paper, it is about peace of mind, especially for seniors between 65 and 85, for people receiving SSDI, and for anyone trying to make every dollar stretch on a fixed income. So let's clear the fog completely. By the time this is over, you will understand what the 2026 COLA actually does, how the payment schedule is supposed to work, why certain months can look strange even when the system is operating normally, and what steps to take if your money still has not shown up. The first thing to separate is rumor from reality, because a routine scheduling adjustment can turn into a major online panic in no time. The confirmed information is straightforward. The Social Security Administration announces a 2.8% COLA increase for 2026, and that adjustment applies to Social Security retirement benefits, survivor benefits, SSDI, and SSI. Now watch this, because this is where the misunderstanding usually begins. The increase is one issue, and the payment timing is another issue. Those are related only in the sense that they appear on the same benefit system, but they are not the same thing. A payment date can shift slightly without your benefit being cut, and a deposit can appear earlier without it being a bonus. When the regular payment date falls on a weekend or a federal holiday, Social Security typically moves that payment to the nearest business day before that weekend or holiday. That means the money can hit earlier than expected, which makes the calendar look odd, even though the benefit itself has not changed in any unusual way. So if you see a deposit coming in ahead of the date you had in mind, that does not automatically mean extra money has been issued. And if two payments seem to land unusually close together, that does not automatically mean the government has added a second monthly check. In many cases, that pattern is simply the result of the next month's payment being sent early because the normal date is blocked by a weekend or holiday. This is especially important for SSI recipients because SSI is normally paid on the first day of each month, but when that first day is not a business day, the payment is moved to the last business day before it. That can make an SSI deposit show up near the end of the prior month, and emotionally, it can feel like two payments arrived almost back to back. But in practical terms, it is still just one monthly benefit arriving ahead of schedule for calendar reasons. It is not a windfall, and it is not a reduction either. It is timing. And timing alone can create a lot of unnecessary alarm if you do not know what you are looking at. Another point that catches many people off guard is the actual dollar amount that reaches the bank account. Even with a 2.8% COLA increase for 2026, the deposit you see may not rise by as much as you assumed it would. That does not always mean the COLA failed to apply. Sometimes, the difference is explained by deductions that are taken out before the money lands, including Medicare premiums or other adjustments. Social Security sends a personal COLA notice that breaks down the exact amount and shows any deductions. So, when the final number in the account looks different from what you were expecting, that notice is often the first place that explains why. Here's the part many people need most. Understanding which payment group they are actually in, because not everyone follows the same schedule, and that alone can solve a lot of confusion. Start with SSI, which stands for Supplemental Security Income. As mentioned, SSI is usually paid on the first day of the month. If that day falls on a weekend or a federal holiday, the payment is issued on the last business day before it. So yes, some months the money arrives a day early or even a couple of days early, and that is still normal. If the deposit shows up at the very end of a month, it usually belongs to the upcoming month's benefit cycle rather than representing anything extra. Now let's move to SSDI and most Social Security retirement benefits, because these generally follow the Wednesday schedule, and that schedule is tied to the beneficiary's birth date. If your birthday falls between the 1st and the 10th of the month, the payment usually arrives on the second Wednesday of the month. If your birthday falls between the 11th and the 20th, the payment usually arrives on the third Wednesday. If your birthday falls between the 21st and the 31st, the payment usually arrives on the fourth Wednesday. Most months, that pattern stays very stable and predictable, which is why any slight change can feel so disruptive. But again, a holiday or calendar shift can push a deposit a little earlier, and when that happens, it can create the impression that something major has changed, when in reality, it is just the normal schedule adjusting around the calendar. There is also one important exception that many viewers overlook. Not everybody is paid under the Wednesday birth date system. If you started receiving Social Security before May 1997, or if you receive both Social Security and SSI, then you are generally on a different schedule. In that case, Social Security benefits are usually paid on the third day of the month, while SSI is usually paid on the first day of the month, and if either of those days falls on a weekend or holiday, the payment moves earlier. Once you know which category applies to you, the whole pattern starts to make much more sense, and the mystery often disappears. Now let's widen the lens for a second, because some people receiving Social Security benefits also receive VA disability or other veterans benefits. Those benefits use a separate payment system, even though the cost of living adjustment often follows the same percentage as Social Security. So if your VA deposit reaches you on a different date than your Social Security payment, that difference by itself is normal and does not automatically signal a problem. The same goes for SNAP food assistance, which many seniors also rely on. SNAP is administered by each state, which means the distribution schedule depends on where you live. Some states stagger SNAP payments across several days using things like case numbers, birth dates, or last names. So the timing of a SNAP deposit does not have to line up with Social Security at all, and many times it will not. Now, here comes the part that creates the most anxiety, because this is where people start refreshing their bank app and wondering whether something went wrong: the official payment date versus the bank posting date. Social Security sends the payment, but the bank determines when you actually see it become visible and available in your account. Those are two separate moments. One is the date set by Social Security, and the other is the timing used by your financial institution to post or release the funds. Some banks show deposits early, sometimes 1 or 2 days in advance. Other banks wait until later in the day on the official date. In some cases, the payment appears as pending first and only later changes to posted. Pending means the bank has the payment information, but has not made the funds available yet. Once the status changes to posted, the money is available for use. That difference matters, because two people can share the same Social Security payment date and still see their deposits at different times simply because their banks handle processing differently. Direct deposit is usually the fastest and most dependable option, while paper checks can take longer because of mail delivery time. So the method you use also affects what the experience looks like from your side. If the money has not shown up when expected, the best response is calm, practical, and step-by-step rather than panic. First, allow a little extra time. Social Security guidance generally says to wait about 3 additional mailing days after the scheduled payment date before reporting that a payment is missing. Second, contact your bank before assuming the worst. Ask whether the deposit is pending, whether it has been delayed, or whether there is any issue connected to the account itself. Third, sign in to your My Social Security account online, because that account often provides your benefit information and payment details. Fourth, Review any deductions or adjustments that may have changed the amount, because sometimes the payment did arrive, but it appears smaller due to Medicare premiums or another authorized deduction. Finally, if the payment truly is not there and your bank has no record of it at all, then it may be time to contact Social Security directly for assistance. And if you ever feel pressured or confused during that conversation, remember that you have every right to ask for a slower explanation and a clear answer, especially if you are living on a fixed income and every deposit matters. That point deserves to be acknowledged because for many households, this is not a small administrative detail. Living on a fixed income often feels like non-stop calculation. Food, rent, electricity, medications, and other essentials all have to fit inside the same monthly number, and there is no room for chaos when the budget is already tight. So, if a shifted payment date makes you anxious, that reaction is understandable. It is a rational response to financial pressure. The good news is that once you understand how the schedule works, much of that uncertainty starts to ease, because what looked random begins to follow a pattern. That is why keeping a simple checklist can make a real difference. Verify your information first. Know whether you are in the SSI group, the Wednesday schedule group, or the pre-May 1997 or dual benefit group. Make sure your direct deposit information is correct. Read your benefit notices so you understand what deductions are being taken and why. Protect your account next, because confusion often creates an opening for scams. Social Security does not call and ask for your bank information in order to release a COLA increase. Those adjustments are automatic. That is a major point, because scammers often try to take advantage of beneficiaries by pretending there is some extra action required to unlock increased payments. There is not. Also, be careful with early SSI deposits. If money arrives near the end of a month, treat it like the next month's benefit for budgeting purposes, instead of assuming you suddenly have extra room to spend. And yes, it is always smart to monitor your bank activity regularly so that you can spot anything unusual quickly. Another important area is additional assistance, because some households may qualify for more help than they realize. Programs such as SNAP Food Assistance, LIHEAP Energy Assistance, and Medicare Savings Programs can sometimes reduce certain expenses for eligible households. A lot of seniors assume they will not qualify because of income, but eligibility rules can change over time, so checking again can still be worthwhile. Now, let's deal with one of the biggest questions people keep asking. Will there be more help beyond the COLA? The most accurate answer is that nothing new is officially approved unless it is announced and signed into law. There may be ongoing conversations about inflation, living costs, and benefit support, but until something becomes official policy, it remains discussion rather than confirmed action. That distinction matters. The safest way to stay grounded is to focus on what is verified and reliable, not on speculation that spreads online faster than facts do. And the verified information at this point is clear. The 2026 COLA adjustment is 2.8%. That increase applies to Social Security retirement benefits, survivor benefits, SSDI, and SSI. The payment schedule can look different from month to month, mainly because of calendar timing, especially when weekends or federal holidays force payments to move earlier. Early deposits are usually not surprise bonus payments, and unusual spacing between deposits does not automatically mean benefits are being cut. In most cases, the explanation is much simpler than people fear. Check the calendar first. Check which benefit group you belong to second. Check the bank posting status third. That sequence alone can answer a lot of what feels alarming in the moment. And for anyone comparing deposits across programs, remember that Social Security, SSI, VA benefits, and SNAP do not all operate on the exact same schedule. SSI is normally tied to the first business-eligible date around the first of the month, unless that date falls on a weekend or federal holiday and the payment moves to the last business day before it. SSDI and most Social Security retirement benefits usually follow the birth date-based Wednesday schedule, with birthdays from the 1st through the 10th landing on the second Wednesday, birthdays from the 11th through the 20th landing on the third Wednesday, and birthdays from the 21st through the 31st landing on the fourth Wednesday. People who started Social Security before May 1997, or those receiving both Social Security and SSI, usually see Social Security on the third day of the month and SSI on the first, with earlier payment dates when weekends or holidays interfere. VA disability and veterans benefits follow a separate system, and SNAP depends on the state and may be staggered by case number, birth date, or last name. Once all of those moving pieces are laid out side by side, the bigger picture becomes much easier to read. One more point that deserves emphasis is how easy it is for the visual pattern of deposits to mislead people. A payment that lands earlier can feel like a special extra release. A payment that appears later in the day can feel missing. A deposit that is smaller can feel like the COLA never arrived. And two benefits arriving close together can make it seem like the system changed overnight. But when you slow the process down, the pieces usually line up. The 2.8% COLA is real. The personal notice explains the amount, the schedule follows established rules, and the calendar can shift the appearance of payments without changing the benefit itself. That is why understanding the difference between a true payment problem and a normal schedule adjustment matters so much. A true problem is when the payment does not appear after allowing the extra mailing time, the bank has no pending deposit and no record of it, and the online account also gives you no indication that the payment is on the way. A normal adjustment is when the date lands near a weekend or holiday. The bank shows the deposit as pending, or the amount reflects deductions already explained in the benefit notice. Those two situations can feel similar emotionally, but they are not the same operationally. And for anyone budgeting down to the dollar, that distinction is huge. It can be the difference between panic and a practical next step. So the smartest approach is not to guess from appearance alone. Match the deposit date to the schedule rules, compare the amount to your notice, check the bank status, and then decide whether anything is actually wrong. When you do that, a lot of the noise falls away. The big picture remains unchanged. The 2026 COLA is 2.8%. SSI normally pays on the first business-eligible date around the first of the month. SSDI and most retirement benefits usually follow the Wednesday schedule based on birth date. Some older or dual benefit recipients follow the first and third day pattern. VA benefits run on their own system. SNAP timing depends on the state, and banks can make the exact moment of availability look different from person to person. So before assuming a benefit was cut, a bonus was issued, or a mistake was made, pause and read the schedule through the lens of timing first, because that is where most of the confusion comes from. The calendar can compress dates, banks can delay visibility, deductions can change the final number, and overlapping programs can make one household's payment pattern look completely different from another's, even when all of them are being processed normally. So, if you are staring at a deposit that appears a little early, a little late, pending, smaller than expected, or simply different from what someone else received, do not assume the worst before checking the mechanics behind it. Sometimes the explanation is as simple as a weekend. Sometimes it is a federal holiday. Sometimes it is a Medicare premium or another deduction. Sometimes it is just the way your bank posts transactions compared with another bank. The key is not to let a confusing calendar create unnecessary fear when the system may be functioning exactly the way it is supposed to. If sharing your situation helps you sort it out, you can mention your city and state, along with whether you receive SSI, SSDI, or Social Security retirement, because that often helps identify which payment group applies to your case. And if straightforward, calm, step-by-step breakdowns like this help you stay informed and less stressed, keeping up with future updates can make the next payment cycle feel a lot easier to navigate. This material is provided for informational purposes only and does not constitute official SSA advice.